Yuhei's Hive 2 VST synthesizer. This thing is insane. Hey guys, how's it going? Alex Scott here with Consordini.com. Thank you so much for checking out another one of our super cool studio gear reviews. Today I'm taking a look at a very interesting synthesizer plugin. This is Hive 2 from the guys at Yuhei. Now, I want to say right up front, if you are looking for a super long, in-depth video that goes over all the features of this plugin, this is not the video for you. To be completely honest and upfront with you guys, this plugin is really over my head. I am not a synthesis wizard. I'm not a guru with this kind of stuff. I do a fair amount of sound design and work with synthesizers, obviously, in my day-to-day job as a producer, engineer, everything that I do. But this thing is so crazily powerful. It would take hours to make a video that went over all of the features, and I am super not qualified to do that. So what this video is going to be more of is a very fast overview of kind of the layout of everything. We're going to listen to a couple of presets, but mainly I'm just going to be talking about my initial impressions of this synthesizer and kind of synthesizers like this, the kinds of producers or engineers or sound designers that I think they're right for, and basically whether or not I think you should buy it based on whatever it is that you may or may not do in the world of music production or sound design. Also, again, we're not going to be going over every single knob. I'm not going to be doing a ton of sound demoing with this. There's a lot of other videos out there on YouTube, including on Yuhei's YouTube channel, that go way more in depth than I ever could. So I'm going to play a few presets. We're going to play around with a couple of things. Don't worry, it's not going to be just me talking the whole time, but again, this thing is just so crazily powerful and has so many features, so many presets. It would just be really difficult for me to make a video that was less than hours long about everything that it can do. So let's just dive straight in and kind of look at what you see when you very first open Hive 2 from Yuhei. As you can already tell, this is an incredibly complex and full feature doesn't even begin to describe this plugin. It's really kind of crazy. So just to go over the basic layout here, we have our two oscillators up top. And, obviously we can do all kinds of interesting things with our oscillators, from our basic shapes, sawtooth, triangle, squares, pulse width modulation. We can also sort of change the settings on the oscillator to get some more interesting sounds out of that. Same thing applies to our second oscillator. Moving on from there, we have our filters for each of our oscillators, and you can actually assign them to whatever you want. We have, of course, our envelope stuff, modulation, LFO for kind of each side here. We have different function generators down here. Again, it is just so much and so powerful. It's kind of crazy, but that's really the meat of our synthesis occurs here around the outsides, and we kind of have very generally our first oscillator over here and then our second oscillator over here. But again, everything is assignable. So we not only have presets for each of these sort of sub-modules, we can also patch these to all kinds of different places wherever we want. We can patch our modulators to different controls, amplitude, envelope, just all kinds of wild stuff. If you so desire, you can really kind of patch any of this stuff anywhere. So it is, first of all, very customizable. Moving on from there, we have this kind of center section, and we have an arpeggiator and sequencer. Again, very full featured. If you guys are used to working with gate sequencers as you would normally work with maybe in modular synthesis or something, this is going to look very familiar to you. We have an XY control, which we can again assign to all different kinds of stuff. We have an entire FX suite in here with distortion, chorus, reverb, phasing, EQ, compression, and delay. These are completely modular and can be kind of put into whatever order you want, and as you turn them on, you can see all of our different settings for everything line up here. So that's very cool. And then finally, this is a really interesting feature. We do actually have an oscilloscope, which is going to show you real-time audio feedback, and you can patch different elements to this oscilloscope. So let's say, if you want to set up an LFO, it'll actually show you the sort of action of your LFO as you change and alter things. as you slow the rate down. So this is going to be incredibly useful for sound design, if you really want to be able to go in and see exactly what you're working with on more of a scope. This is where you're going to be able to do that. So that's a very interesting and very cool feature. And then down here, we have several matrices that we can use to assign things, kind of modulation matrices. And then we do have a layout of our keys. It's really just, you can do so much. And that's honestly all I'm going to say about the layout, because, again, this thing is a little bit over my head, and I am not somebody who is totally clueless when it comes to synthesizers. If you guys have followed the channel for any amount of time, you'll see, I own a DeepMind 12, I own a Behringer Model D, which is a Mini Moog Model D kind of clone. I have an ARP Odyssey. I've owned plenty of other hardware synthesizers throughout the years. I've used lots of different hardware synthesizers throughout the years. I really, really like synths. I use them fairly often. I do video game scoring. I do sound design for sound effects for games and other projects. Have done film scoring in the past, all kinds of stuff. And I've used synthesizers in a lot of that work. But when I first opened Hive, my brain melted a little bit and started to leak out of my ears because, as you guys can see as we go through all of this, it is so insanely powerful. So that's going to be my first big point when it comes to Hive 2. And this is really what I want to focus on more in this video, is just kind of what I think about it. This would be an incredibly intimidating plugin for me if I were a beginner. If I were somebody who is just getting into producing music, if I were somebody who maybe didn't have a ton of experience with synthesizers, I would open this up and have absolutely no clue what to do. Now, because I have a little bit of experience with synthesizers, I can at least get a basic, 16 voice patch, polyphonic patch with a sine wave loaded up, and I can do basic stuff. Maybe we only want 4 voices, get a sawtooth. It's not hard to just get a sound out of, but in terms of using some more of these really, really advanced features, that is definitely something that I would be a little bit intimidated by. It's really designed to be all things to all people in terms of what it can accomplish. And from that same angle, if you are somebody who has extensive experience with synths, especially software synths, if you are somebody who has extensive experience in sound design and really crafting incredibly complex patches, this is going to be a great option for you, because I've watched a few other reviews on it. I've read a little bit of literature on it, and everybody seems to be in agreement that it is one of the most capable and full-featured software synths on the market today. And I totally get it. It can do absolutely anything and everything, from the wildest, most advanced, like atmospheric sound design stuff where you have these incredibly complex, evolving soundscapes that you can create, all the way down to doing any kind of genre-based stuff. So if you're doing like trance or kind of more straightforward techno stuff, and you want leads, you want unison bass patches, anything, it can really do anything and everything. And that's very, very cool. But again, you kind of have to know what you're doing in order to be able to really get the most out of it. For somebody like myself, this is way too much for me, and way more than I will ever really need in a synth plugin. So that is the first thing to be aware of. Now, again, there are some very cool and unique features that I think aren't really found in many other things, or many other software synths. This kind of built-in oscilloscope is very cool, and I could see that being very, very handy. It clearly has a very full-featured sequencer and arpeggiator. It also has this really interesting synth engine feature up here, which you can kind of set the engine to be dirty, clean, or kind of in the middle. So, that would, I'm assuming, kind of dirty, grit things up a little bit, maybe make it sound a little bit more vintage. So that's very, very cool. But then there is a whole other kind of side to this, and this is the preset thing, which I will say that this is the most advanced preset system I've ever seen in a plugin, ever. So we have tons and tons, and just hundreds of presets. I think, based on these numbers here, we've got close to 800 different presets, which is a lot for any plugin. But that is kind of nice, because it gives you a lot of places to start from. It gives you a lot of content to start working with. And if I were somebody who was a little bit more on the beginner side, which I guess in the scope of what this plugin can do, I sort of am, it is nice because I can just jump straight in and grab, a pad and kind of start messing around and say, oh yeah, that's cool. Andromeda Dark. All aftertouch sensitive. Aftertouch you can hear is assigned to that kind of LFO. And it does sound fantastic. All the sounds that I have encountered in Hive 2 so far, just kind of messing around with it, it's very cool stuff. There's a lot of very sound effecty kind of stuff, a lot of very sci-fi. There's a lot of very kind of classic house type sounds. That I could see in more kind of old school style productions, but then of course tons of very, very, very modern stuff that's going to be really, really great. Again, for anybody who's doing anything in the, like sound design is huge. If you're doing work for video games, really intense stuff for like sci-fi games, I could see this being a great tool. Or if you're just producing very modern styles of music, really, really great tool. Nice kind of trance keys there. That's Main Street keys. Glitch organ. That's kind of cool. Zinc. Deep Dream. It's a very DX70 kind of a sound, like old school FM digital synthesis. Afternoons in Distortion. Kind of a mono sound there. Grandpa. That's fun. Very smooth jazz. Blue Horizon. So you can see it's really, 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 really powerful and very, very versatile. We have all kinds of like arpeggiated sequences and loops. So, this is where it's like I could just sit in here all day and just kind of pick random presets. And this synth does work that way as well. There's nothing preventing you from doing that. So I guess, talking, kind of getting back into this point of like, if you're a beginner, do I recommend this synth for you? This is an option. You can certainly get it and then just sit here and play with the presets because there's a ton of them and a lot of them are really, really cool. And I'm sure you could find a bunch of your favorites and really just kind of use the synth like this and never really worry about what's going on over here and just spend most of your time like, oh, I need a, it's all very well laid out. It's like, oh, I want some plucks and then just look, platinum. Nice trancy plucks. Viral transfection. Oh, yeah. Hit it. There's a ton of stuff in here that is very, very cool and would be very useful. But I think that while it's really great that they've included this many presets, it's kind of selling Hive short a little bit just because of how outrageously, ludicrously powerful it is when you get into the actual meat of using the synthesizer. So that's really my takeaway from looking at this synth. Again, I've said it several times, and I am not ashamed to admit this is very over my head. Which is, it's like, well, why am I making a video about it? Because I think that, my take on it is really just more in who does this make sense for? Who should be using something like this? If you are looking at Hive 2 what are some reasons that you should buy it? And it really comes down to like, how advanced are you? How good are you at putting together synth patches? Because if you are somebody who this looks really exciting, you're looking at the screen right now, you're seeing all of these buttons and switches and faders and stuff, and you go, I know exactly what all of that does. That's amazing. It can do this, it can do that. This would be months and months and months of fun for somebody like that. For somebody like myself, I'm kind of in the middle. You know, I know enough about synthesis to take some of these presets and maybe tweak them a little bit to my liking, but I'm so used to using more like vintage style synths. You know, I have Arturia's V collection and I love that and use it all the time. Those synths make a little bit more sense to me because it's like I have a Moog Model D or a clone of a Moog Model D sitting right over here. So if I need a lead tone, I'm going to either use that or I'm going to pull up the Mini Moog in Arturia's V collection and I'm going to use that because I already know exactly how it works. It can do everything that I need it to do. So for me, this will be something where like if I get a very specific request from a client where they're like, hey, I need you to do like some sci-fi video game soundtrack, something or other, and I need like a big epic synth drop kind of a sound, you know, I may very well pull this up and go in here and start looking for crazy synth hits that would be way too complicated for me to make on my own. That's kind of, you know, that's one example of how I could see myself using this. Now, again, getting back to this end of the more kind of beginner spectrum, I think that this is way too much for somebody who is new to this world, new to music production, new to music synthesis. I think that there's tons and tons of great presets, and so that could be really, really attractive. But again, there's lots and lots of other options out there for synthesizers that have lots of presets, are very, very versatile, can do all kinds of different sounds, but aren't going to totally overwhelm you potentially when you very first open it up. You know, I could see somebody who is interested in making EDM. Maybe they've spent a little bit of time with FL or another program like that, and they're looking to upgrade their synth collection and get, you know, a really good synth plugin. This could look like a very attractive option because it looks like it does a lot. It has a lot of presets. And I'm not saying don't buy it if that's what it looks like to you. But I am just saying, you know, you are, in that case, if you don't really know what you're doing, you're sort of limited to just clicking through these sounds and finding ones that you like. And that's it. You're never going to be able to access without, at least, I shouldn't say never. It would take a lot of practice, a lot of dedication, and a lot of learning to dive in and really learn how to customize all this stuff, how to build your own patches. I think there's better options out there for simpler stuff if you want to get into doing that. That's also really versatile. That can also do a lot of different styles of music and sound design, but is going to be simpler for beginners to grasp. It's very powerful. It's very advanced. It's very full-featured. If that's the kind of thing you're into, I think this is probably one of the best options out there. It does a lot of unique stuff, and it really will be able to tackle any sound you could ever imagine it making if you know how to get it there. That is kind of my overall take on Hive 2. Very, very cool. And I do have to say, thank you so much to the guys at Hive for sending me a license for this. I really appreciate the opportunity to check it out. I honestly wish I knew a lot more about synthesis so that I could do some crazy in-depth video. But again, check out Hive's YouTube channel. And they have a ton of really, really amazing videos that break down all the different components of this synth and different things you can do with it. They have a lot of great preset demos if you want to hear more sounds. But again, just thank you to the guys at Hive for sending me a license. Very cool. I'm sure I will find something creative to do with it. In any case, what do you guys think about Hive 2? Have you used it? Do you like it? What do you think about synths like this that are like a total powerhouse catch-all? Whether you need classic sounds, super modern sounds, crazy sound design, effects, whatever. You know, what do you think of synths like this? Is it something you use in your workflow? Whatever your thoughts may be, let me know in the comments down below. If you have not yet subscribed to the Consordini YouTube channel, please do so. That really helps us out. Be sure to click the notification bell to be kept up to date with our new content. And of course, if you want to leave this video a like or a share, that would be greatly appreciated. In any case, my name is Alex Scott with Consordini.com. Thank you guys so very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed it, found it useful, and we will see you in the next video.